Hi, I'm Katrina Raspel, the Ringer Bruja, and today on the video blog, we're going to be talking about reading a candle burn. And when we do candle magic in Hoodoo or Appalachian Magic or Santeria or Brujeria, we are focusing an energy into a wax substance to burn off over a period of time. And one of the glories of candles, just like with soap, is that the material that we use to create them is very porous, and so it absorbs energy very, very well for future release. And particularly with the novena candles and the prayer candles, this lets us continue the process for days at a time, coming back to revisit it or maybe burning a little bit at a time. I'm not going to be addressing freestanding candles at this time, like pillars or columns or the figure candles. I'm not honestly a big fan of them because of the safety reasons. The glass candles are all purpose. They tend to address any needs that we have, and that's what I primarily use when I'm setting the lights for someone. For those who are not familiar, setting the lights for someone is when the curandera or the brujeria or the root worker actually does the magic for the person, so that they are the ones who are putting the energy into it, and then they're monitoring the burn, sending a report of that magical work after it has completed. So what we're going to be looking at specifically today is the analysis of what's going on with a burn as it's happening and then afterwards, which is always a wonderful indicator of how that magical process is going to be enacted. So when we're doing candle magic, it's important not only that you choose the right color candle and the right type of candle and put that power into the candle that you want it to exhibit, but also the whole other step of that is to monitor the burn and see how it's doing, because that'll tell you how your magic is received and how well it's going to work. Now, we have a lot of things to consider when we're reading a burn. One of them is something called I can never say this word, capnomancy. This means the reading of the smoke that comes up out of the candle. We also have pyromancy, which is the reading of the flame itself. And then we have cerumancy, which is the reading of the wax that's left within it, or you can pour out some of the wax to read in cold water. Now, if you do that, you do risk the flame going out. So I tend to not bother my candles while they're working. I don't try to influence their burn. I don't tilt them in a certain direction. I just monitor the burn and how it's happening. Now, when we're reading a candle burn, it's common sense that there's going to be science involved. And so it's important that you take that into consideration as well. I've got notes down here. That's why I keep looking down, because I want to make sure I cover everything. When we're burning a candle, there are two things going on. We have the scientific side, which is physics and chemistry of the candle itself, and then we have the magical side. And in the 35 years I've been doing this, I have seen those all have equal bearing on what's happening. So we do have to take those into consideration. Obviously, if you're burning candle in a drafty area, you're going to have a different burn for that candle than you would if you were burning it in a draft-free area. And what we have to look at is, why did you choose a drafty area to burn this candle? Were you trying to manipulate the outcome, or were you just led to do that? And so, as with anything magical, intention is always what we're looking at here. So we have a lot of things to consider with the physics. We have the quality of the candle, of the wax, of the wick. We have the type of dye that it was used in the making of the candle, whether or not that's going to influence the burn. The degree of oil that is in the candle, the types of oils in the candle will also influence the type of smoke that is released, whether the quality of the glass around the candle. So there's lots of things going on there, as well as environmental things like a draft, like the temperature of the room. For instance, when you burn in a warm room, you're going to have more puddling and you're going to have a faster burn because the wax is softer. So we consider those things, but we don't say that that dictates the outcome. What we say is that those are things that we must take into consideration, because there are a lot of magical factors involved as well. So we're going to specifically look at some candles that have burned and what that means. Now, the first one I want to show you, I think we're going to do this one. Now, this was a Spellbreaker candle, and I'm going to turn it so you can see down in there. This is actually, there we go, actually a pretty decent burn. It's a clean burn all the way down. I have trouble with the lefty-righty thing. Here we go. There you go. It burned pretty cleanly all the way down. When we look inside, we see a little residue down at the bottom, which is common. So if I were looking at this, I would say that overall, this person probably had a pretty successful spell breaking situation. Up at the top, we're in the glare, but if you could see there's a little bit of dark soot across the top. When we encounter dark soot, that's usually a type of resistance that's going on. It can actually be a magical resistance or a literal resistance to your work. Um, and there's varying degrees of what that means and how to process that. But overall, we've got a nice clean bottom here. We've got the darkness a little bit at the top. So this would mean that when this person went into the spell breaking situation, that they had a little bit of resistance to it, and then it just flowed right on down, and we had a very near complete burn. So probably any resistance to that was overcome, and we had a good burn here. Now, you will get some candles, especially with a soy candle, that it burns all the way down clear, so you can barely tell there was any wax in there. Back to chemistry again, with a paraffin candle, you will almost always have some kind of residue. So that's that candle. Now, when we look at this candle, this is or was a come to me candle. And we use a come to me candle when we want to bring something to us. And this can be a person, a situation, some type of outcome that we're trying to draw in. Now, the first thing you're going to notice on this candle is what's going on here. And in theory, from physics and chemistry, we would look at this and we would say, it looks like that the flame and therefore the wick had skewed over to the side somewhat and was burning more on one side. But when we look inside, we can see that that wick was almost perfectly centered. So chemistry-wise, probably that's not what happened. So we've got some reading to do here on the magical side. And so what we do is we look at the label and what's happening, and we can see that there's a darkness there. That darkness hit right at the, in this case, the female's hand. And the hands are very distinctly on this particular image, male and female. So we would have to look at what resistance the female was showing in this, whether the female is the practitioner who's doing it, or there's a female involved in the pulling in of what they're drawing. So this could even be a job. Maybe a female was the person who was going to hire this person, and they were meeting some resistance. Regardless, we overcame that resistance, and down here at the bottom have a pretty clean burn. Up here at the top, you can see that that resistance goes all the way down. And usually, in fact, I know I sold this candle, I made this candle, and when I look at a candle on the top, I'm not going to actually sell a candle that isn't having a wick straight up and down, because that is going to influence the burn. So this tells me this is probably an authentic magical situation that we're looking at here. So I would question the client and say, what resistance did you see? What did you note that was going on there, and was that overcome? So that's another consideration there. Now this is a wonderful teaching candle. This is a Guadalupe Myrte candle, and you can see that there's a little bit of black soot right here on the side. That means we had some initial resistance to whatever this person was burning to end. You only burn La Santísima Myrte candles when you want to put a death-like end to something. So when you are just over a particular situation, like you want to just banish being overweight, or you want to banish smoking, or you want to end a relationship that's not healthy. This is for endings specifically, that you're not going to open that door again. So we've got a little tiny bit of resistance, but this is what I want to show you, if you can see this. Up here at the top, we have what looks like paraffin or a wax sediment at the top, and it's not, because check it out, watch this. That, my darlings, is white soot. White soot, not wax on the inside of this. White soot is invariably a good sign, and what the white soot means is that you have divine protection and divine intervention on this situation. So always read your white soot as help from a divine source of some kind. It can be angelic, it can be God or goddess or creator or whatever you see as a higher force, or it can just be the positive intervention of good in the world. But you have some type of divine assistance going on there. So this person who burned this particular candle likely had good outcome on what they were trying to banish, and had some assistance from above. So that's about white soot. Now, this candle right here is the famous ETFO candle. And I developed this candle because I had a client come in who really needed this help, and it says CTFO, and down here at the bottom in little bitty letters, it says sweetie. So CTFO, sweetie, that stands for chill the fuck out, sweetie. And you burn this when you need to stop overreacting to something, when you need to pull back an obsession, when you need to create calmness in chaos that you're creating. And so this is a wonderful example of resistance. A person purchased this candle because they needed to chill out. They needed to stop investing so much energy into an obsessive situation and burn it down. But look at the splatters. Look at what a wreck this candle is. All the way down, they've had resistance on this. And what this tells me is that while they know they need to chill out, they personally are resisting what's happening. So we've got the black soot in there. We have a clean burn, which is good. It burns almost all the way down and through, but they're just struggling with this all the way down. And this is a good example for how you can see a person's struggle within the candle itself. Now, when we're talking about black soot, I want to show you this one. This is a wish come true candle, and I don't ask my clients what they're wishing for. I empower the candles and send them out the door. They are responsible for how they use it. So you can see here that this person really had some resistance. Now, all of these candles I've shown you have the exact same physical chemical composition, same wick, same type of paraffin that's used for these candles, and the same type of glass. They are all the same width, quality, depth of glass. So, but we've gotten completely different outcomes on these. So when you look at this, you can see, and I tore the label a little bit, so you can watch that, boy, this darkness and resistance of this black soot goes almost all the way down. And then finally, down here toward the end, it actually, if I tore the label more, you'd see right about here, we start to see the clarity, and look, nice clean burn around the bottom. Really pretty clean burn. So this means that whatever this person was wishing for, and this is one that a client brought back to me. I have clients that bring the glasses back when they're done with them so that I can destroy them responsibly in a magical way. You can see that they hit huge resistance on whatever they were wishing for, and then bam, it just opened wide up, and suddenly they had a clear shot and everything was good to go. When you're reading that, look at it as divination. This is going to be a tough road. It's going to be a tough wish to manifest. You're going to have resistance and resistance and resistance, and then very suddenly, very out of the blue, because it's a blue candle, you're going to hit the clarity, and it's going to be full steam forward. So pay attention to your burn all the way down. And if you're burning and you start to see black soot at the top, know that you are hitting some resistance on this. This could be magical resistance in terms of somebody doesn't want you doing what you're doing, or you resisting yourself. For instance, let's say that you want to, we'll go back to, you want to lose weight. That's your wish. This is a wish candle. You want to lose weight. So you're burning this to lose weight. And all this resistance is here. That's those cravings coming in. That's you saying, why am I doing this when I've only lost 1 pound in 2 weeks? That's all of the what if, and I want a pizza, and all of the resistance that you've got inside. And then you start to see the success. So you would look at this and say, yeah, this is going to be hard, but ultimately I would be successful. So that's a wish come true candle. This was a particularly sloppy candle. This is the Love Honey candle. This is used mostly for men who are attracting other men. And I pulled away some of the labels so you can see that this was a pretty messy, sloppy burn. We didn't have a whole lot of resistance. There's a little bit up here at the top, but there was just a lot of candle wax action, and the burn at the bottom is kind of sloppy as well. And you can see all the way down that we had wax that was just not falling in. It was not playing the game we wanted it to play. So with this particular candle, we also have some rough road right down here on the label. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's very textured now all the way down where it was smooth before. So what we would think of when we look at this particular burn is that this is not going to be an easy run. There's not necessarily resistance in terms of outside forces to this or internal forces to this, but that there are going to be obstacles that come up along the way once it gets rolling. So, and also that it's just going to not be a very cohesive relationship if it does go ahead and take off. Now, when I first started following the path of La Santísima Muerte and Guadalupe, which are my patronesses, I burned a candle that was a Guadalupe candle in order to acknowledge that I had built an altar for her and that I was accepting her as my patron saint. And it was a pretty crazy candle. And I want to show it to you for the purposes of instruction. And I've kept it all these years because it was so interesting the way that it burned. So you can see Guadalupe kind of had a fit here. Now, anybody who reads candles would look at that and say, well, what was going on there? But you'll notice that, like some of the other candles, this is the blackest I have personally ever seen a candle burn down. And this was a white candle that burned in here. But then we've got clear all around the bottom again. And what this really was, I've got to confide to you that for many, many years I worked as Wiccan, and prior to that was Christian. And so when you get into a path like root working or brujeria or santeria, what happens is that you find that there's no lifeguard at the pool. Whereas before you've had all these rules and all this, oh, you should never do that, and you shouldn't ought to do that, and that's a bad thing to do. Um, you just start to learn that karma is something that we tend to create for ourselves. And so all of this resistance right here was me getting rid of all of that programming that said, oh, you must never, and you cannot, and whatever you do, don't, and getting out of that box that conditioning had put myself in so that I could freely embrace her and have a nice clean burn. So that was a really interesting read, and I had to meditate on that for quite a long time to be able to understand what the meaning of that was. So I always keep that on my primary altar to remind me from where I came. To look at a few other candles here, this is a Hand of Glory candle, and we use the Hand of Glory to unlock doors and to make ways clear, similar to an Abre Camino candle. The nice thing about the Hand of Glory candle is we've got these 5 fingers here on fire, and you could write on each of the 5 fingers a goal that you have. So this is really good for multiple goals. And I wanted to show you this because this is a nice clean burn all the way down. Got a little bit of red down here at the bottom, but mostly it burned off nice and clean. So probably this person's goals are going to be good to go. This is a healing candle. And I have a client with chronic physical conditions that uses a lot of healing candles. And this one is kind of an amalgam picture because we've got Jesus right here. And then over here, we have La Santísima Muerte. So these are energies that actually work very, very well together, although people tend to see them as different forces. And so I like to use it together for healing. And the patron, or the customer that uses these glass candles right here, the healing candles, has had lots of different results, and a lot of times that depends on how her physical condition is going. So when we look at this one, it was an okay burn. We've got some herb going on up here at the top, and when I dress the candles for people, I put oils in there and I put herbs in there, a little bit of glitter, and so it's natural that it would come across right there, but some of them don't actually go up against the sides. This one did, and this tells me she might need more medicinal help, or that she might need an adjustment to her medications. And then it burned pretty clear down with a little bit of sloppiness down here at the bottom on the blue and at the top. So this means we have to make sure that her doctors are hearing her, staying on target, and that she is conveying her symptoms correctly. When she did her most recent candle like this, Jesus just got all burnt up. This was all black through here, and only this area up here was spared. And that tells me that there's an emphasis on the La Santísima Muerte side of this, which is the death side. That doesn't mean she's going to die. It just means that she needs to look at behaviors and situations that need to end in order for her to have a healthier physical experience than what she's having. So this is an interesting candle because it did not burn all the way down. You can see we still have quite a bit of wax here. However, we have no wick inside. The wick is all gone. One of the biggest questions I get from people is, why didn't my candle burn? I can't get it to light, or it burned maybe part way down and went out. You sold me a crappy candle. What's going on here? The thing is that when you empower candles magically, they take on the attitude and the atmosphere of the spell work that you're doing. And quite frankly, when that spell work is done, candle's done. So usually when the wax stops burning, it means that your spell's done. It's time to stop, whether that's down here or way up here. So you have invested the energy into that situation that you need to invest, and you need to let it go. Now, if you were pouring out wax to read the wax, or the candle got knocked over or something like that, sure, you can relight the candle. In fact, if it stops like this, you can try to relight it. But if it's like this and there's no wick down in there, you're not going to get a burn. So just trust yourself, trust your candle, and know that when the wax stops burning, the spell work is finished. Now, what you can do, and some people will absolutely argue against this, and I just don't because I'm a thrifty witch. And what you can do is hold the candle if you want to, cleanse it out by either running water over it or setting it out in the full moon overnight, and you can rededicate it to a different purpose. So if I wouldn't do it to a completely different purpose, like if this was a green candle that I had dedicated to money and it went out, I wouldn't then dedicate it to health, which can also burn with green. I would keep it to a money candle, but use it at a different time. And sometimes if you are picking it up again a few months later to use, it'll go ahead and burn if you're on a whole different set of spell works. Some people just prefer to just get rid of the candle and say that it's done its job and it needs to go away. I have reused candles very, very successfully in the past, but this is a good one to show you that it didn't burn all the way down. We just got a little bit of ash down in there at the bottom. Other things that can come up is the actual burning in terms of the flame. If you get a really big flame, make sure, of course, that you're keeping it fire safe. That's the nice thing about the glass ones, but you also want to burn the glass ones in your sink or in a big plate of dirt or something that's not going to cause fire damage if that glass happens to break or something goes on. You want to stay safe at all times. But if you're getting a really big flame, that's usually a good sign that things are very enthusiastic for the spell work that you're doing. If you're getting a really low flame, it usually means that it's a very thoughtful spell. It's going to take a little while to enact, and it could actually go out if it's finalized. If you can't get a new candle to light and stay lit, it means that's not the work you need to be doing, and that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you just need to reframe your work in a different way or put it into different words that has a better outcome. Sometimes you need to take a day and rethink exactly what you want to do and then try again. Sometimes it means don't even put your energy toward this because we got this. Everything's okay. We're going to not take your energy on that because universal energy is already hard at work on this and we got it handled. So if your candle doesn't burn, that's not always a bad thing. It can actually be a good thing that this situation is far enough along that it's going to work even without your input to it. So if the flame jumps up and down, that is often, especially if it's a candle you're doing to affect the behavior of another person, a jumping flame usually means the receptibility of the person or the target. So if you've got somebody you're burning a candle for somebody who wants a job, let's say, and they're really trying to get a job, you're usually going to get a pretty good flame. If you're trying to burn a candle for your teenager to get a job who's laying on the couch playing video games and they don't want a job, you might get some resistance on there. So it's really got to do with the type of receptibility of your target, and often their conflicted nature causes the candle to jump up and down, where they want it but they don't, they want it but they don't, and that might warrant a conversation to get them into a frame of mind that's more receptive. And oftentimes you'll notice that a candle starts out jumping up and down with the flame just kind of popping up and down, but as it burns it gets more solid and bigger, and that is the effect of your spell work opening doors for that person to become more receptive to what you're doing. Sometimes you'll have a candle that's really talking, and my sister Teddy is the queen of this. All of her candles talk to her like mad. She has videos of them that I'm going to get permission to post here. But sometimes candles, the flame will just crackle and spit and talk and make all kinds of sounds. And when that happens, there's messages coming through about the spell work that you're doing. That's an excellent time to do some divination, read some tarot cards, throw some dominoes, whatever, use a pendulum, whatever you use to communicate with the other side. Take advantage of that to find out what messages you need to know about the spell work that you're doing. Sometimes you can just meditate or use dream time and those messages will come to you. But anytime you're hearing noise come out of your candle, it's getting your attention in a really direct way and saying, I need to tell you something. Find a way to speak to me. Find a way to listen to me. Now, if your candle starts to get, let me show an example. if it starts to get like it's burning down and you start getting a whole lot of puddling here, so you're seeing this much wax and this much oil in it, or this much melted wax in it, then that means your candle's really eager to do the work for you. So that's definitely a good sign. And I think we've pretty much just about covered everything that I had to say about that. So when I light the candles or set the lights for somebody, what I'm going to do is get it in a really nice draft-free area. I'm going to up the empowerment on it. We're going to do the herb and the oil supplementation to it. And I'm really going to buzz this with some energy. I'm going to do some incantations over it and get it nice and strong and ready to work. And then I'm going to burn it on my personal altar, away from any drafts and any type of interference. Someplace where the cats aren't going to knock it over, or it's not going to run into any problems. And then I kind of monitor it over the next few days. Now, some candles will burn down in 3 days, some take 5, some take 7 or 8. And this can be of the same candle composition. And so I'm going to be noting all of those things. I'm going to say, how long is this candle taking to burn? That tells me that this might be a really fast process or a really slow process. How well is it burning? How clean is it burning? What color of soot do I have? Do I have any particular patterns in the wax down at the bottom? Has the wax actually bled through and is on the outside now for some reason? That can indicate that some outside help is coming in. If you have twin flames, I just had a gal named, I won't say the name, but just had a gal that this happened for, where she's burning one candle, all of a sudden it's got 2 flames in it, when I know good and well there's 1 wick in there because I made the candle. If she's getting 2 flames coming up, that represents obvious that there's assistance coming in from some area. And you just let that sucker go. Just let it burn. Now, the exception to this is if you're doing some spell work to break up a couple and you get 2 flames coming up, that means they're going to stay together and that your efforts are not going to be successful. So that's the one time that the twin flames is not necessarily a great sign to what you're doing. So that is what I have regarding, as I said, the burning of candles and the reading of candles and how that works. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at katrina@gringobruja.com, and go to our website at www.gringobruja.com for more of these videos and some written blogs as well. Thanks for tuning in.